Hey weirdos, this is Evan Jarvix with Make Oklahoma Weirder, and this is your local music vlog for the week. It is July 19th, Friday morning, and the Gazette nominations are back. I'm going to try and go through this really quick because the past couple times I've tried to record this, I've talked all 10 minutes about just the Gazette Awards. So let's just narrow it down to the two categories. We've got, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Best of OKC, you can go to vote.okgazette.com or bestofoklahomacity.com to vote. These are the finalists as were voted on and originally nominated a few weeks back with the open ballots. So the people have spoken. And again, the cover bands, thankfully, are in their own category. So we don't just get left with Mike Hosty like we were last year, where it was Hosty versus 4 cover bands. This year, Hosty is back, though. Best or Original Music Artist for the Oklahoma Gazette. Best of OKC 2019. Nominations are Hosty, Kyle Dillingham and Horseshoe Road, Sophia Massid, Dirty Little Betties, and JB, which I'm pretty happy with. I think maybe a couple of surprises with Sophia Massid. I think it's the first time she's been nominated for something like this. I could be wrong, I don't know, but I think that's really significant for someone who's pretty much riding on the success of a few singles and hasn't put out an album yet. To my knowledge, I know she's been in a couple of other projects and she's had some prior music that's not publicly available, so I don't take my word on it, but I think based on the strength of those singles and just a really darn good marketing campaign and just, hard work, congrats to Sophia being in this list. Dirty Little Betties, I think, is a little bit of a surprise too, just because they haven't really been performing that much lately for them to be so strongly in the public consciousness. So that just means that they made a really strong impression kind of in the wake of their last album cycle, which was for Backyard Carnival, which in fact was one of my favorite albums of 2017. And I also want to mention Kyle Dillingham and Horseshoe Road, I think, is probably the token I don't listen to local music pick, because to compare, and I do want to make this point, I came across another magazine that nobody reads. Obviously people read it, obviously people subscribe to it, but I don't read it. It's called Oklahoma Magazine, I think it's just something really standard like that. And they had their best of the best of 2019, and who was in their very out of touch music category? I'll give you 2 names from the Oklahoma City Best Music category. One is Kyle Dillingham and Horseshoe Road, and the other was Chainsaw Kittens. Chainsaw Kittens, people. And, I think that just speaks for itself. If you know Chainsaw Kittens, that has not been a relevant band in many, many a moon. So, yeah. JB would be my pick. If I were voting, JB would be who I would vote for. I think he's quite possibly the hardest working of all of these people, even though they all work very hard. And he also has a new album coming out, and he's still kind of, living off of the last album that came out, which was Black Future, the best album of 2016, and just continues to work, not just as a musical artist, but just as a great community figure altogether. So giving it to JB if it were my vote. Best bar with live music, if I had to choose, it would be, for the first time that I know of, 51st Street Speakeasy got a nomination, so congrats to them. I think it's a great place to check out music. I think it's a great space. It's a great atmosphere. The people who run the place really care about local music, really listen, really pay attention, and curate their talent. And it's one of the only places in the city that you can catch a really good hip-hop show. There's not very many places that you can do that. Also on this list is Blue Note Lounge, great place, JJ's Alley, Saints, and VZD's, all fine nominations. I think it's really cool to see Saints in here, and I think we can attribute that to specifically 2 people, Original Flow and Christian Pearson from OK Sessions. Those 2 people have put on incredibly successful and excellent regular events that I think have really made Saints stand out as a live music venue versus just kind of the occasional one-off things that they would do with very little promotion. I think it really speaks a lot. Also, since it's kind of a weird room, and the sound system could probably stand to be updated. I think all that considered, the fact that Saints is still in here as a great place to listen to live music at a bar goes incredibly to those two people. So your work is paying off. People are noticing. Congrats to all of you involved there at Saints. Now, I have 5 minutes left, and I'm going to try and bowl through the rest of this if I can. Don't Tell Dad is an event that's happening up in Tulsa, and I think this is a really cool event. They had it last year. It's their second time to do it. I'm not really that familiar with it, but it's a really cool lineup, and apparently they made a very specific choice to only book bands that were either female fronted or non-binary fronted, which I think is awesome. So some of the names in here that I recognize: LCG and the X, Ramona and the Phantoms, Space Horse, Alexis Onyengo, and one of them I do want to point out, Sylvia Wrath, which is like some really brutal, really just abrasive punk music. Sylvia Wrath from Tulsa, if my understanding is correct, this is their last show. Sylvia Wrath is going to no longer be a band after this performance. So if you need another reason to catch this really cool 2-day event up in some warehouse in Tulsa, I think Sylvia Wrath is definitely worth catching. Another band that's coming up on their last show, Brooding. I don't think I mentioned Brooding, but I mentioned them a while back because they came out with a new single that is really awesome, and one of my favorite singles of the year. I can't remember what it's called, but I will listen to it again, certainly many times before the year's over. Brooding is going on a sort of indefinite hiatus situation. They've got a show coming up at a VFW space, which I'm not familiar with at all, but there's been a couple of kind of DIY shows that have been happening at a particular VFW, and some of the other bands on that lineup, I think Elderly Smackdown is on that, which is one of the S3D side projects that are out there. But Brooding, it's going to be sad to see them go, but I know that they're all going to be working on their own things independently. And lastly, speaking of bands that are going to be disappearing, Trip Sitters. I mentioned Trip Sitters recently on another vlog, but Trip Sitters, if you want to catch them in Norman, they're playing at the Roots Salon in Norman on the 20th? I think it's Saturday. I'm pretty sure it's Saturday. They're playing with Bobby Chill and the Wave, who is a really cool chill band that you should check out if you don't know. But Trip Sitters is having their last Oklahoma City/Norman show this weekend, and they're having it at the Roots Salon, which is not really a venue, but on Second Friday Art Walk, they frequently have had outdoor shows, just like a platform out there for kids to come up and play music on. Well, it's not like an open mic, but, they would book bands and have young bands kind of, cut their teeth on playing to the public on like a makeshift outdoor stage. And so it's really fitting to see Trip Sitters kind of play at a place where I know that they've played in the past in Norman. And I just think Trip Sitters is one of the more slept-on bands in Norman and Oklahoma City. So this is your last chance to catch them. They have another show that's coming up in Tulsa, too, but I wanted to shout that out. Young Weather has a new album, which is awesome. Young Weather, if you don't know, is the solo project of one Dustin Ragland, who's ACM at UCO faculty. He's also in a bunch of bands. He's been in a bunch of bands, but he also does solo stuff. Over the course of like the past decade or two, his solo project has like slowly changed from like a kind of indie rock band thing to like a solo electronic thing. And I feel like this is really the culmination of that in a lot of ways. He did happen to send me the early listen of it, and it's definitely, if you're like part of the younger crew of like Normanites who are into like these really obscure tape labels with electronic music, you should check out Young Weather, because he fits right in with kind of like the Judy Records stuff, kind of like the fixed rhythm stuff that's out there. If you like your Sam Regans and you like your Lanes and things like that, Young Weather fits in with that. It's very well composed, very thoughtful electronic music, and I really super dig what he's doing. Speaking of, you know what? I don't have time. Gonna mention OK Sessions real quick. If you're not submitting stuff to the Amplify Hot Sheet, what are you doing? It is like so up to date on some of these artists. Even I'm learning stuff from it. Seriously. Also really excited to see Kingdom of Ashes in there, because I didn't think OK Sessions touched metal, and it's not quite metal, but it's definitely touching metal music, and it's included in there. So I appreciate seeing that band in there. I didn't even know Kingdom of Ashes had a new single out, so that's really awesome. So submit your stuff to OK Sessions. I will see you next week.